The one and only DJ Craig G on Daryl Talks to Bands. Good to see you.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a while since we've connected. The last time was that I made that one trip to Toronto, which I was planning to do regularly. The start of the pod, which was like a little over a year ago, 13 months ago.
Just over a year ago. That's right. Yeah.
And
that's for a podcast that we will talk about that's coming up, and you are episode 1. So there you go.
Okay, because at one point I was going to bring this up. I was going to be like, I've got a bone to pick with you. Is that we recorded this podcast, and I thought it was good too. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like what you did with this.
It is good. It's very good. Yeah.
And it's well, I guess it's evergreen. We were talking about like topical content or the weather or things like that. So it'll be interesting anytime. We're just talking about music that was like 25 years old.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot of fun. That was a great podcast. And as I say, it is launching. It is coming up in the near future. But obviously, I know that you want to talk about what I've just launched literally like 4 days ago.
Yeah, I saw this, and I've been following along, and I know that you've been building it up on Twitch and doing all sorts of themed DJ sets. So tell me all about Revolution Radio.
So Revolution Radio started. I started doing that just before the pandemic started. I started doing kind of DJ mix shows and stuff, and the reason I was doing it was because of the fact that I had retired from nightclubs probably about almost just over 10 years before that.
Yeah.
But I was starting to miss DJing again, so, and I had this really nice controller, which is sitting beside me, which you can see in all of the shows. And I just wanted to just do something. And so what I started doing was kind of content-based / theme-based DJ mix shows. So we would do, one, we did one where we played all kind of, kinky music, like I'm trying to think of, some of the stuff that would have come up. What was that? Divinals, I Touch Myself, like all of that type of stuff, right? And of course we've done a Halloween show, we did a Christmas show, we did the
themes like that though. Like you can go through so many different genres too, right? Like if you have
that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. And we've gone through a million different genres, and that's one of the things about Revolution Radio. When I started doing the shows, I wanted to be able to stretch out and essentially play whatever I wanted to. I didn't want to stick to what I had done in the past, where you and I both worked, of course, together at CFNY at The Edge. I've done that. I had a blast at it. I had a wonderful time. Still to this day, some of the best years of my life, but I really wanted to stretch back out and start playing a lot of the other stuff that I used to do at clubs back in the day, such as Whiskey Saigon and Havana and a million other different places that I ended up playing. So I just pulled out the controller and started really small, and then the next thing I knew, people started watching on Twitch, and then we got ourselves a nice little following, and people seemed to dig it. And then I spoke with my wife one day about it and said, there's this thing now called Mixcloud, which is essentially, it started as a DJ mix show platform. So you could record your sets, post them up on Mixcloud.
It's essentially the new mixtape. Yeah, it's the modern. The modern. I have a Mixcloud with like about, I don't know, there's 5 or 6 things on there. I don't add to it often, but it's like here are things that I've done.
Exactly. Yeah, which is great. And we actually pay into it. So we're select members. Yes. So that means that basically when we pay our monthly fee to Mixcloud, they're sending it essentially to like ASCAP and, SOCAN and all of these different places.
Oh, BMI, so you are registered and paying SOCAN fees.
So not actually not specifically through SOCAN, but Mixcloud
part
says
of the membership is going towards that. Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good.
So
I mean, at least the artists get a couple pennies out of it, right? They'll see.
That's what we're hoping for. You see, we're still trying to figure out exactly what the situation with Mixcloud exactly is.
It seems
like they're like, well, this is how we distribute the stuff, and it kind of goes here, and it kind of goes there, and then it goes over here, and then it gets filtered back through this, and we're like, okay, I think I understand what you mean. So you're sending it to the right places, right? Basically, that's all we care about. Like the thing for me is, with Twitch is a platform that I've started spinning on, like we were talking about. With Twitch, it's not a legal site. it's illegal. So
Well, yeah.
technically speaking,
But everyone's doing it now, like, and promoting their Twitch accounts too. I was gonna say it's
They
like the
are.
Wild West on Twitch with music. Because if you go to YouTube and go like your copyrighted music is gonna get muted and stuff like that, right? So
Correct.
the Twitch right now is the Wild West. So I mean,
It is one of those things, and it probably just like you, I have a couple of old friends that are insiders that have said they're looking at Twitch, and it's I hate to say it, but it's only a matter of time, which
Yeah.
really sucks, because the thing with the labels, podcasts are number one. Why you can't license music for podcasts still to this day is completely beyond me. Why there isn't just some sort of subscription where SOCAN says you pay us this much, per month, $20 a month, and you can use 5 songs in your podcast for the month.
or even if they put some sort of like a digital kind of, like put some sort of branding within the song itself. So it's like, okay, why don't they want it in a podcast? Because someone could theoretically go into a podcast and download it, and then they could extract that song out, and now they've bootlegged the song. Is that because that's the only other? It's intellectual property. Those are the two things, right? So like, if you put it into a podcast, why don't just have something like, over the bridge of the song property of blah 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 blah. So that
Exactly.
way it's a tainted version of the song or something, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't.
What the hell do I know, though?
That's that's it exactly. You and me both.
Yeah, what do we know?
I don't know. At this particular point, I just wish they would come up with something. I know you've spoken with Alan Cross about this in the past, and he seems to have a decent amount of knowledge about it. But anyway, so to get back to the whole Twitch thing, there's this wonderful universe that's exploded on Twitch, and it's basically musicians, DJs, bands. Like I've seen people reading poetry, like slam poetry on Twitch.
Well,
like
it's anything that you might see in a venue, right? That you can't go to right now.
Exactly. And that's basically essentially what Twitch has become, is people have turned their own homes into venues. Like you see an old friend of mine, she's turned her apartment into a dance club, right? She went out and bought a little dance light from Amazon, turns it on, and she dances in the middle of her room, while I sit at home. She's in Hamilton, I'm here, and she just dances and has a great time. Her name's Darcy, and she's literally been listening to me since the very, very beginning. I actually DJ'd her birthday party on Twitch. So she was like, that's my birthday next Wednesday. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything next Wednesday. Do you want me to spin your birthday party? She said, yes, I would. That would be awesome. So I said, give me 25 songs and I'll play for you. And
I thought you were about to say $25.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that I started doing too, which is wild. An old friend of mine, DJ Mike Harding, has done a couple of things for me, and he said for Revolution Radio, and he said, I love your voice. Could you do me a huge favor and record some like station identifications, like bumpers, we call them in radio. I said, sure. So I put together a few of them and sent them off to him. He plays them all the time. I've now gotten 5 people from that saying, I want, could you do me some station identifications, they call them, right? And so who knows where that'll end up going. Maybe it could be some sort of a neat little side project, a neat little thing. I've done 2 so far, and I'm just waiting to hear from the other 3 people to send me the scripts, and I'll read them for them.
That's cool. So now part of the Revolution Radio, so is the Twitch platform, but then also we're talking about the mixcloud, and that is a 24/7 radio station now.
Yeah, so we're calling it a music channel. We call it Revolution Radio because essentially what we're trying to do is take the piss out of a radio station. And the reason that Revolution Radio sounds the way that it does now is because of the experiences and the lessons and everything that I learned from being at CFNY. So consequently, I've put everything together like it sounds like a professional radio station. So between every song, Alan Cross used to say to us, you can never say your call letters enough, right? Like you can never mention your radio station's name enough. There's no such thing.
Okay.
So
you're doing a lot of that, but okay. So people don't have to write it down in a diary though.
Yeah, no,
that was that
exactly.
strategy, but I mean, it's still good to branding. I mean, look at the podcast. I mean, look around this. This is like branded like
Yeah.
insanely. So
Yeah, you're lucky. You've actually got like an amazing like little branding thing. I really need to clean up my shit here. This is embarrassing. This is like, well, I got half of my drum kit right here.
yeah,
And
no, like,
that's good news for you because I'm going to be playing a song for you on YouTube.
oh,
I've
nice.
got the party for Martin Streaks poster back there.
Yeah.
That guy there.
Yeah.
And yeah. So basically we've tried to set Revolution Radio up as much as we possibly can to attempt to sound like a real radio station. We just signed a guy on by the name of DJ Angus James. He's going to do Thursday nights from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and his mix of music, like he'll play everything from Mahavishnu Orchestra to James Brown to Daft Punk to Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and
Love that.
and just kind of everything in between. He does this wonderful sort of mishmash of tunes, and the way he's able to put things together is like I've never heard anything like it. Was talking with you recently about hopefully doing something in the future.
You know what? I've thought about this because you mentioned it to me before, and I just thought, well, I could just. I want to do something that, like, technically I'm starting to get set up now too, where I can connect like the sound system to the computer within it, so, yeah, I'm working on something. I do want to put something together and do, I don't know, maybe a monthly, maybe I could do a monthly. It's just, it's the time, right? Cause everyone's you're trying to do a bunch of stuff. And, I mean, I know you're going to pay me a big, huge, like monthly retainer to do it too. So, I just got to make sure I can allocate the hours.
The check's already in the mail.
Okay,
you. So,
perfect.
Yeah,
all right,
it's on the way.
I'm in.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too, is that eventually I do want to get this thing that we're doing, this music channel, we're calling it. As I said, we just call it Revolution Radio because we're trying to emulate that style of broadcasting. I want people to have their own day parts. I want, to sell advertising. I want to be able to put advertising up on the website. We have a brand new website, brand spanking new website, which looks pretty cool. It's still under construction at this particular point in time, but it's just www.revolutionradio.live. And we've even got a little section on there where you can leave us a voicemail message.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really cool. So it's this thing called SpeakPipe. And all you do is it just says, make sure your microphone is on. You hit play or you hit record, and then you've got 90 seconds to say whatever you want to us, like your awesome.
Dude, this is input. This is input 102.
It's exactly what it is. And it's this exactly, this new thing that I just stumbled upon. I thought that is such a really, really cool idea, So I downloaded it, put it on the website. It's absolutely free for us. And and you have 90 seconds to say, love the music. Craig G, get your face off the camera as much as you possibly can. And face for radio. So we're just having a blast with it. Honestly, I'm getting so much incredible feedback from people saying like, it sounds really, really good. The only thing I need to do now is invest in a compressor, because one song, of course, would have been mastered back in 1963, and it's the WAV file is this big.
Yeah, audio processing,
and then I play Dead Mouse, and the audio file is this big, right? So that's going to be the next step, and we're going to be implementing that in the next few days.
It's funny you say that, because that instantly triggers something. A night from the Phoenix where I was filling in for you, and at the time we were playing. You had played it, so I'm like, that gives me license to play it. We played Kanye West, Gold Digger.
Yeah.
And so
Don Mitchell hated me for that.
Yeah, he did
absolutely hated me.
Not a fan. But anyhow, there was a song that was running out, and I grabbed, like, I had a burnt CD with some of this, like the club stuff that, like the spice disc for Club 102 or whatever, and that tune, I threw it on there. But I didn't check because the song was running out quickly, so I did like scramble to get it in, and the level was at the same as it was for something that was like recorded in like the 90s, and oh my god, the levels just the system took it though, but that whole place like rumbled, and Nolan just looked at me like, dude, these like the VU meters just like smacked me in the face.
Yeah,
like, sorry, my bad.
I got a good one for you. One night we were at the Phoenix and place is packed. 2,000 people in the main room. And I'm playing Blur Song 2. Woohoo! For people that may not know it. And,
everyone knows that. Come on.
Everybody knows. Yeah, of course. Everybody watching us anyways knows that. And so I don't remember exactly what was happening, but we always try to be as friendly to everybody that comes into the booth as we possibly could, even though it was a busy place to
Martin
be.
Taught me that lesson the hard way one night because I was, go on.
Yeah. So I was playing Blur Song 2, and I don't remember what had happened. I think what had happened was I took the CD, I put it in the CD player, but I forgot what number the track was in the playlist. So I turned back around and I looked at the playlist really quickly, and then I turned around and hit play on the CD player. But it was the CD player that was already playing. Now, if you know when you hit play on a CD player that's already playing, it pauses it. And then I made the huge mistake of hitting the stop button beside it. And the crowd just goes, I look at Nolan and I said, turn on the microphone. So coming over the edge is this massive boo. And I'm standing in the crowd, standing in the booth going, yep, I just did that. Did that.
What else can you do?
Owned every second of it. And then I just played the song again. It's like, that's what live radio is, right? Shit happens. So it was, that's another good one. I have so many of those.
That's funny. I wish if I have the file, but if I should have isolated the clip, because I have some Club 102 recordings where the crowd mics would go on for any time there was a motherfucker in a song. So like Killing in the Name or Bad Habit by The Offspring. Yep. That whole build up, and then you get like 1,500 people yelling motherfucker on the radio at the same time. To me, that was like one of the, like, that was the cool thing about radio, was that live and you're sharing this thing, and it's after, like, and so people love it when someone's like, when you played that, like the full version, of Killing in the Name.
Yeah, we had to, and you had to play the full version of Nine Inch Nails Closer as well too.
All those,
I always wonder what it would have been like for a guy like Darren Pfeiffer to hear his own song, like Counting the Days. And when we would,
because he'd be back in the studio sometimes going on afterwards, right? So it's like,
it's like, I always wondered, like, that must have been so cool for him sitting at home listening to the radio going, I played drums on that song. Now check this out. Watch what Craig G's going to do, honey. And then, still counting the days I've been without you. And then we would pull the volume down in the middle for the crowd to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's like, that must have been so awesome. That's me. That's my song.
Jimmy Eat World Sweetness, the woes. You could get the crowd mics on those too.
Yeah. There's a ton of course, Blur Song 2. Woohoo.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them. Trying to think of some other ones. Yeah, I think you probably nailed most of the big ones. Oh, there's a Green Day one that was good too. Hitching a Ride.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
That's right.
I had those on there from when Dean was on, so I was just kind of.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I heard that right at the end of the podcast. Fantastic. Oh man, that brings back memories.
Yeah,
I used to do Insomniac Theater, and I would do that every Monday morning. The boys would come in, and Jason would sit down, and he would test all of their sound effects. And
what happened?
That's right. And then he would go through all of them, and the boys would get ready for their show. So yeah,
it's funny
that's awesome.
You mentioned Insomniac Theater, because I also have a clip of that show from when I came in. Now I thought for a while, I'll play the clip first, and then we'll talk about it. So you had me come in. I brought in my turntables before going to a gig in Oshawa, which was the late night live to air. So this went live at like 2 a.m. for like an hour. So I was in Oshawa till, and then I made it back. And so this was between this was sometime in the 3 a.m. hour, like the later part of the 3 a.m. hour.
I think you started around, it was like 3:15 or something, and played for like an hour. It was great. I remember it. It was great. So all right. So I can't wait to hear this. I haven't heard this.
J. Craig G's Insomniac Theater. Mr. Daryl Spring.
Thank you, sir.
Throwing down some raga drum and bass. Celebrating Black History Month. Thank you very much, my friend.
Doing some classic dance hall, some Don Penn. What else we had? We had some Super Cat, couple Top Cat tunes.
Awesome.
And this one, sampling Bob Marley's Jammin'.
Awesome.
Hopefully you still have an audience left.
So I mean,
Guaranteed I did. Guaranteed we did. Yeah.
to me, that was one of the coolest things that happened there was that I played a Raga Jungle set on 102.1 The Edge. And if you listen, I have the full thing, and you were running IDs. So there's IDs running over top of these tunes, 102.1 The Edge. And to me, like, it's just hilarious, you know, that we got, in the most amazing way, of course.
The reason I got Insomniac Theater was because the Kingdom had closed, and then Martin Streak and Nolan started doing Friday Night Live. And they had a really cool concept. It was a great show. I really loved it. And so then at that particular point in time, you were opping on Fridays for a while. And then I came in after you and did the overnight because I wasn't doing anything at that point in time. That's on right. Fridays.
Yeah.
And then on Saturdays, I had a misunderstanding with the Phoenix, and they didn't like me. And to be honest, I wasn't, hey, listen, it is what it is. It's in the past. It was a long, long time ago. Anyway, it was interesting. Management and I did not see eye to eye. I love
you don't want to tell the story? You don't want to get into like a Dish the Dirt episode of Daryl Talks to Bands? I'm giving you a little background music here, though.
Well, let's just say that I was told by somebody there that worked for the club, not an employee of the club. I was told by someone that they don't want me to play heavy stuff like Korn and Limp Bizkit and Tool and stuff because they don't want any mosh pits, right? We used to get mosh pits at the Kingdom in Burlington all the time. I mean, you remember.
The Kingdom was the best.
Yeah. And, sorry, just had to clear my throat. So I stopped playing it and started leaning more towards like the Vines, the Strokes, the Hives, Fatboy Slim, all that type of stuff, like more the poppier kind of stuff.
Yep.
So then I stopped doing the Phoenix, and then 6 months later, my buddy Nolan is DJing it, and he and I are out one night for a beverage on a Tuesday or something like that. We were sitting at the Red Lion Pub on Jarvis Street. I'll never forget it. He looks at me and he says, "Yeah, so what do you think of the sets I've been playing?" Because at that point in time, I had just started doing Insomniac Theater, and I'll explain where that kind of came from. So I said, it's really interesting you're playing Korn and Tool and Limp Bizkit, because I was told by management that they didn't want that. And now here you are playing. And he said, "You know what management said to me?" And I said, "No, what's that?" And because they didn't realize Nolan and I were friends, they said, "Yeah, we told Craig we wanted him to play this type of stuff, but he just refused."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "That's not true at all, actually." That's entirely a lie. But anyway, like I say, it was a long, long time ago. I love the Phoenix. I love DJing there. It was a great place to work.
But are you suggesting
I worked there for a long, long time
that someone in the club business wasn't completely, straight with you, that they lied to you? You're not suggesting that, are you?
I don't know what you're talking about. So at this point in time, the Kingdom had closed. Because of, the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. They were just tired of fighting with them. The Phoenix thing wasn't working, and Pat really wanted, at this particular point in time, just as I was getting into Insomniac Theater, Pat was kind of saying to me from the Velvet Underground, saying, you should play this, and you should play this, and you should play this. And I played everything that he suggested, kind of thing, right? So I was like, yeah, no problem. Like, if you want, you tell me what you want. You're the guy paying the bill, dude. I mean, I'll do whatever you like. There's no skin off of my ass, right? So I did everything that he wanted. But at that point, I remember distinctly, I think talking with you and Andrea Gillis one night and saying, it was kind of a late night, saying, I want to do an overnight show on the weekend. And so you guys were like, why don't you just talk to Don and see what happens? So I did. And I went and spoke to Donnie Mitchell, our music director, and I just said, I would love to do an overnight show. I know I'm not an announcer. I'm not a jock like a Daryl or a Blundell or a Martin or, any of these guys, Bookie, whoever, Josie and everybody else. But I said I'm willing to learn. And, an overnight show is kind of the perfect place, because that's really back in the day where a lot of people would cut their teeth. I remember speaking to Carlos Benavides about it, and him saying, that's where he just completely learned his craft. Was
accidentally hit some what happened buttons there. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I love it. You right in the middle of whatever you want. So yeah, I Don said, I think it's a good idea. Leave it with me for a couple of days. And I got a phone call at home. I was at home and it was Alan Cross. And he said, I need you to come down to the studio. I said, okay. So I went down to the studio and he said, I think we're going to be able to work this out because things are kind of a little weird at the Velvet Underground, from what I understand. And I said, yeah, like, yeah, Pat and I are still cool. Like, we were always the owner of the club. We were always cool. We were always civil with each other. We never had any issues or anything like that, right up to the very end. And I always really liked him. He's a great guy. You know, used to own Catch 22. I mean, he's a legend in the city. And I just said, yeah, I don't know exactly what's happening. I think he might want to get DJ Hannah in there because Hannah was a longtime disc jockey of the Velvet Underground and worked for Pat for many years. And
yeah, of course,
fucking great disc jockey.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like, it sort of works out perfectly because, to be honest with you, Alan, I would love to do the entire weekend overnights. And he looked at me and said, you've got a show. And that was it. And I remember coming out and seeing.
I love how Alan would make decisions like that too. It was great.
Yeah, it was just like really just kind of, yep, say congratulations. Basically, you know, here you go. You got a show from, you know, after. So at that particular point in time, I was going to be doing Fridays overnight because Friday Night Live, I think finished at midnight or 1 o'clock or something like that. And then I went straight through until 6. I did the same thing from the Phoenix, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. For the Phoenix. And then I was doing Sunday nights. I started doing Sunday nights, you know, shortly after that as well. And I did that basically straight through until I finished. And I loved it. It was,
and none of it exists.
Everything
it's
that
all
I know
gone.
how to do, you know, everything that I know how to do to this day, I did, you know, I learned on that show. And, you know, that was another thing too. What was interesting about that was I think I was about 2 months in and I approached Alan and said, I'd love to have guest DJs do sets on the show. And he said, done, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Yeah, and that's, you know, overnights are not rated periods on radio stations. So, you know, why not get weird and promote it and have like a, you know, you're going to get a specific audience there for that show. I think, you know, nobody wants to take a chance anymore. I think there's a lot of reasons behind that, but, you know, there was some really cool stuff happening at that radio station, you know, at that time that was we got the tail end of it. I feel like it got like, you know, you were there longer than I was, but, you know, I left in the end of 2009, like literally December 2009. Then I started in Hamilton in January 2010.
Yeah. I left in March. I left just before Barry and Martin.
Yeah.
2 months before them. Yeah.
And, yeah, I feel like that was just like the end of like all the great stuff that station did.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that to me over the years. I've heard from many people over the years, you know, when Daryl left, that was it for me, you know, because I think we're really the last guy out of the bunch
after everyone else. Yeah.
After, you know, Bookie and Barry and Martin and everybody else, you know, that was the thing. Actually, interesting pop trivia too. Do you know who gave me the name for Insomniac Theater?
No. Oh, Bookie. Yes, I did know that. Yeah.
Bookie.
Yeah.
I was producing for him because Adam Ricard was his producer Tuesdays to Fridays, but he was doing Monday to Friday. And he was also doing Saturday, Sunday mornings from 6 a.m. to noon. So he was working 7 days a week, and he's like, Don, this is going to kill me. Like, I need a day off. So they asked me if I would produce for Bookie on Mondays because I only worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I said, yeah. Like, talk about like school every Monday, like, you know, sitting down and producing for Bookie. I mean, again, same thing. So I walked into the studio when I got Insomniac Theater, and he looked at me and said, you lucky fucking bastard. They basically just handed you the keys to the radio station for the weekend. You understand what's happening.
Freeform, yeah.
And I said, yeah. And he said, what are you going to call it? I said, Bookie, actually, I have no idea. Do you have any ideas? And I remember I was writing some notes, kind of looking at the desk, and he was staring at the console, kind of like this, you know, kind of doing his Bookie thing, like bopping back and forth to.
Yeah. He never stood still. Yeah.
I think the Tragically Hip was playing or something like that. And he just didn't even look at me. He's still looking at the computer. And he says, you should call it Insomniac Theater. And I'm looking down and I look up at him. I said, Bookie, can I use that? He's like, absolutely. Of course you can use it. That's why I gave it to you. Right. So I went to, and I remember Alan had said, you've got to get us a name for the show because Rob Johnson is going to do the imaging for you for the show. And he needs it today. So I called Alan in the office and I said, it's called Insomniac Theater. He went, love it, hung up the phone. And that was it. And then and I did Insomniac Theater for a year and a half. And
that was
some of my best times there.
That's a lot of hours of freeform to get to do on 102.1 The Edge, in those years. I had Marsden on the podcast a couple episodes ago and talking about
it was a great episode.
The freeform stuff, and like my favorite thing in that whole is like when he's at Chum FM and it's like, here's a playlist, and he's like, how long would it take for you to accept my resignation? It's like that's cojones of steel. It's like no.
I mean, talk about amazing. Yeah,
it's unreal.
Alan said to me pretty much, if you can sell me on it, you can play it. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah. So our friend from
Walking Cowboys from Hell, Club 102. Those once in a while.
Yeah.
Did Alan must have had something to say about that.
No, actually he never did.
No.
The only time he had something to say about, and I'll tell you exactly what song it was. I played it at just when we had gotten the Velvet Underground contract, when we went from, it used to be Whiskey Saigon. Then a couple of brothers ended up buying it that owned Montana's across the road, and they called it Joe for a little while.
That's right.
Joe was. I understood where they were coming from. They were trying to do a she nightclub on the third floor, and kind of like, do you remember the Peel Pub in Toronto on King Street?
Yeah,
they were trying to do a Peel Pub kind of atmosphere on the second floor. So I got where they were coming from, but it didn't work. Anyway, the club shut down, unfortunately, and we were without. I think Martin and I were without a club for, 6 weeks. And we just did the show from 228 Yonge Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, and I think you came on afterwards, actually. And
I did that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I have a great story about, so remind me of Halloween and Sunday night at 228 Yonge Street.
Oh, okay.
We'll come back to that in a second.
So I can just finish this up really quickly, because basically what had happened was, I think we were without a contract for 6 weeks, and then we got Velvet Underground, and they said go for it. So the song that I played, I asked Martin about it, and he kind of looked at me and said, go ahead, play it. And I said, okay. I get a phone call Monday morning, and it's Alan Cross, and he says, if you ever play that friggin' song again, because Alan doesn't really swear, right?
Yeah,
if you ever play that friggin' song again, I will pull you off the air myself. And I was like, holy shit, are you serious? He's like, yeah, absolutely, I'm serious. We didn't play that song. Mickey by Tony Basil.
Oh. I'm with him.
It sucked too.
I'm with him.
I beat matched it perfectly into My Sharona, because they're exactly the same tempo, right? So Martin was kind of sitting there. He's standing at the edge of the booth, right, with his arms folded, big shit-eating grin on his face, looking at me going, I know you're going to get in trouble. But that was the last time that I ever...
I'm surprised he wasn't like, I'm surprised he didn't like smack you, maybe.
Nope. He let me play it with a big smile on his face. And I think it was a test, because at that point, we had only been doing Velvet Underground for a little while, and it was we really started to take, they wanted to go like way back into the archives. So like myself, and there was this guy Sudeep was working with us for a while, and Martin, and
who went by Milhouse Brown
went by Milhouse Brown. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And so the four of us would kind of reach into our crates and pull out stuff that people hadn't heard since like 1985 on the radio station. Like I remember one night we threw down The Friends of Mr. Cairo by John Evangelis. And Martin looked at me and said, Craig, you need to understand there's people that are listening at home right now that are crying because they haven't heard this song in 20 years. And, they hadn't heard it on the radio station since.
I got a schooling in the spirit of radio on those Sunday night shows, because I got to fill in. One of the most intimidating things I did was the first time I filled in DJing on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Because I knew that music, I was familiar with that music, but I wasn't DJ familiar with that music.
Right. Everybody knows New Order. Everybody knows Depeche Mode. Everybody knows Pixies.
Exactly.
Everybody knows Nirvana. Everybody knows Nine Inch Nails. But when you start stretching out into Fad Gadget and, going off into all Factory Records and Warp and, 4AD and all of these incredible, labels that have been around for forever. And
there's so many like good songs that are like one or sometimes 2-hit wonders that it's like, who is that? Like,
yeah,
it's so easy. I'm people who have that recall with the 80s to me is super impressive. I mean,
DJ Hanna is one of those people. If you could go on a Sunday night to watch when I started doing Insomniac Theater and you would watch him, some of the songs that he would play, you'd just be like, holy shit. Like, how did you even, I never would have thought of a song like that in a million years. And it worked, and it just eventually with Velvet, it just got to the point where, Pat was ready to pack it in and he sold it. And that was the end of Whiskey Saigon and Velvet Underground.
You know what could have worked with Oh Mickey, You're So Fine with My Sharona? A loop. If you just loop a part of My Sharona, like an instrumental bit of that, and then do the Oh Mickey, and then get it out of there and back into My Sharona, and off you go, right?
Dump back into My Sharona. Yeah, I could have done that, but no. Alan was he was super cool about it and didn't give me. He basically said, "Listen." When I saw him in the hallways, he's eventually afterwards, he's like, "Craig, I'm not going to take you off the air. Just don't do anything."
He's making a point, yeah,
kind of thing, right? Exactly. I said, "Yeah, I will. Anything I'm going to play from now on, I'm going to clear it with Martin. And if Martin stands there with a smile on his face and lets me play it, I'm going to say." Martin, let me do
it. Yeah, exactly. Martin, let me do it.
Blame it on Marty. Yeah. What was your Halloween story?
Okay,
before we move on.
Yeah. When Velvet Underground disappeared for a bit, you guys were doing the show from 228 Yonge Street on Sunday nights, and then I would come in and do the overnight. This was my regular shift for a while because you would remember probably throwing to me from the club most Sunday nights, right? And this was the Halloween that Martin went in full drag at the Phoenix on Saturday in a bikini, like as a beauty pageant contestant, completely shaved from head to toe, including the eyebrows. I think it was really like just breathtaking in a very uncomfortable way.
I wanted him. He looked great.
I mean, the stems on that man in heels.
We were stuck in the DJ booth together for a couple of hours. So
yeah, you were. I couldn't. Oh man, it's incredible to have the. I was going to say balls
to do that,
but where did they probably got taped back or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
But the Sunday night following this,
yeah,
I come into the studio and Martin was wearing like a kilt, and he was just wearing like a different Halloween costume that was like kind of normal or whatever, right? And I walked in and I was like, oh, it's so good to see you somewhat back to yourself again. And he goes, oh, really? Do you think so? And then jumps out from behind it, rips the kilt and the shirt off, and he's got like the leather gimp suit on, and he put the hat, the mask on, and the whole, and now he's chasing me around 228 Yonge Street. He's like, I'm gonna get you, Spring. And it was like, maybe the beauty pageant was better. I don't know.
Yeah, he used to try to throw me all the time. I remember one night at the Kingdom, I used to do a mix that I remember the first time I threw it down, Adam Ricard lost his mind. I used to mix from Disturbed down with the Sickness into 9 Inch Nails Closer, because they're exactly the same.
It's a classic, yeah.
Beats per minute. And I threw it down, and I'm right in the middle of the mix, and I'm kind of doing the thing and making sure nothing screws up. And all of a sudden I feel this headphone come off, and it's Martin. He's like, you're doing great. But he's so close to my ear that I can literally feel his lips like on the skin of my ear. And then another thing that I don't know what it was for me was that when I started spinning at the Kingdom, the DJ booth was up pretty high. So it would kind of almost come up to about here.
I like booths like that. Yeah.
And it was like, awesome.
If it's not elbow level, if you're making me bend at all.
Exactly. Yeah. It was basically just like rest your arm height. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I used to stand, and I don't know why, but I used to spread my legs a little bit, and I would lean on my left arm, and I would just kind of monitor the next track that I'm doing and stuff. I would just, be in my own head of, okay, well, if I'm playing this, I've got to do this song next and I have to do that song after that. And Martin's going to talk in 5 minutes. So Martin, I don't know where he got the idea from, but what he used to do was I would be leaning on the booth and he would come up behind me without me seeing him. And he would reach in between my legs and pinch my chota.
Yeah, he would. Yeah.
And of course you're, oh God,
yeah.
you'd be doing one of those and laughing your ass off at the same time because it's him.
Oh, see, this is when we really needed good cameras on phones for stuff like that, right? Like, because then Martin be like, "Hey, just start recording,"
Yeah, watch this. Watch what I do to Craig.
Get this.
Watch what I do to Craig again.
Yeah.
For like the 30th time.
I think
he loves it. He loves it.
There was a night that I was there, and I'm pretty sure I was filling in with Martin. I think you were DJing. It was you, me, and Nolan. That hour of just radio before the doors open, and I was going through, and so like the bar staff are there, and sometimes they would come in and out of you guys would know them and everything. Like I went out there a handful of times, and every time I went out there, I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome.
Yeah. The Kingdom there's nothing else like the Kingdom. It was just, it was like family. It really was.
Yeah. So I was going through, because we'd have these big playlists and, we would talk like twice an hour. So sometimes, and we mentioned all the songs at the club shows. You always mentioned every song at the club show.
You had to do a proper back sell,
And sometimes they would be fairly lengthy. So I was going through and reading this list and blah, blah, blah. And then there was this and that and blah, 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 come down and 1410 Burling Road and all this. And then I look up and one of the girls just had her top down. And it cut, and without missing, I remember this specifically, without missing a beat, I was just like, those are nice. And then back into what I was saying. And I'm like, that was the magic of the Kingdom right there.
Yeah. The Kingdom was really something. The Phoenix could be interesting too. I remember one night Todd Shapiro filled in. And if you go onto my Mixcloud page, there's an episode, I believe, that's posted of me at the Phoenix, like my favorite songs from the Phoenix or something. And I did my favorite songs from the Kingdom as well, because I tried to separate the two shows as best I possibly can. You always have to play Smells Like Teen Spirit and you always have to play Closer, right?
Yeah.
So, but at both places, it doesn't matter where you are. But I did this one show, and I remember Todd Shapiro from the morning show filled in one night. And he was so fucking nervous. Like, I mean, Todd, he's always happy, right? He's always happy to be wherever he is. He's always got a smile on his face. But he's standing in the booth with a big smile on his face, but he's really, like, he couldn't stop moving, and he was really nervous. And I said, Todd, just be exactly who you are in the mornings, at night, because that's what people are expecting to hear. They're not expecting you to do your best Martin Streak impersonation. Nobody can do that, right? So just what you are in the mornings, be that here at the club. And he did this one break which had me in absolute tears, and it's on this episode. But he says he does this back sell, and he's talking about make sure you get down to the Phoenix. There's they've opened the doors a little bit early. There's all sorts of really, really good looking people, and then all of a sudden he goes, well, there's actually a pregnant chick here, so if you're into pregnant chicks, then come on down to the club. And I mean, without and just instantly, as soon as, and that was right at the beginning of the show too, right at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
I looked at Todd and I said, that is Todd Shapiro. Perfect. That's what you do for the rest of the night. Now you know what you have to do. And he was great for the rest of the night. He did a great job.
I worked with Todd for a while. He came out, he was hosting in Oshawa for a bit, and he also hosted, I did a gig when they brought back the Ice Cold Fridays thing, the Dixie and Eglinton gig.
Okay, yeah.
They brought that back, and so I would DJ every week, and one week Andy Frost would host, and then the other, and he would rotate with Todd. And Todd did all right there. That was a club though. Todd was kind of in his element. We're playing rock, but it was really nice, and I got the feeling that Todd went to nightclubs and stuff like that. That he would get on in those places.
Yeah, but he would absolutely. Yeah, there's another guy too, Andy Frost. I worked with Andy. I was the Toronto Maple Leafs DJ for half a season.
Oh, that's cool.
1 year too. Yeah,
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I did that. The Air Canada Center. Excuse me. Sorry, my throat. What the heck's going on here? I did that. Alan Cross and Dave Charles were commissioned by the Leafs to put together a playlist of songs, and they needed somebody to spin. And Alan's been really good over the years with me to try to get me work. because I wasn't in radio for a really, really long time. So he's always been really, really nice to me, and called me one day and said, I think I might have a gig for you. Would you be interested in DJing for the Maple Leafs? I said, you've like, don't screw around with me, right? Like, are you serious right now? Like, you're talking like the Foster Hewitt gondola? And he said, yeah. I said, yeah. Yes. The answer is yes. Doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. Just
I'll
yes.
pay to come.
I said,
to
okay.
it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I did that for half a season, and it was amazing. Of course, we didn't get into the playoffs. So
they screwed up so bad when they got.
I was done in April, but it was amazing. It was an incredible experience. And I remember I would sit in the gondola with this fella. Oh, that's awful. I can see his name. I just gonna completely forget blank on his name. Super, super nice guy. He's actually he's in charge of the entertainment for the Calgary Flames. He did that for years.
Okay.
Anyway,
it doesn't matter what his name is.
One of the guys that actually got me the job in the first place. And I was sitting beside him, and then the organist was sitting on the other side of this fella, in between myself and the organist. And then 2 rooms down was Andy Frost's booth.
Yeah. So
when we started introducing all this new music, I'll never forget, we played Baby Come Back by the Equals, the first band that Eddie Grant was in.
Yeah.
And it's just got this super, super cool beat, and the song comes on, and I've got a headset on so I can hear what's going on in the broadcast booth, and what's going on for just making sure all the pieces fall into place when they're supposed to. And all of a sudden you hear Andy Frost come on. Great fucking song. and his voice just kind of comes out of nowhere. And, myself and Steve was his name. Steve. He and I just kind of looked at each other. It was like, my God, his voice is just fucking awesome. Like,
I know.
He just sounds so cool. Like,
he
just,
would host in the club.
Fucking song.
He would host in the club on, and Andy was a different guy in the nightclub. I won't say this stuff, but like, it was hilarious because it was coming from the voice of the Leafs, right? Like, they blew it so hard when they replaced Andy as the PA announcer for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, whoever makes that decision, like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Like, you just can't get a more picture perfect in-house announcer for sports.
His voice just rang through that place. I mean, there was nothing like it.
So a lot of people do a good Andy impression, but he does not like that, from what I've heard.
No, probably not.
I know. I've heard some amazing ones over the years too. But
really, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
People we've worked with.
He's got such a unique voice. I can't imagine too many people.
And just he's a good guy, just very knowledgeable.
Wonderful, wonderful guy. I actually, because I got to meet him and work alongside him a few times, I got to talk to him about a night that he used to do at the Phoenix. He used to do a thing called Strange Paradise Mondays. And it was, if you want to talk about a show that gets a guy, at the time I was a musician. I wasn't even really DJing that much. I was playing drums in a million different bands and stuff like that. And I was starting to get back into DJing, but I went and saw, and it was DJ Geo.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Geo.
And the fucking mix that this guy threw down on a Monday night was like nothing you'd ever heard. He'd go from Cabaret Voltaire to fucking Lenny Kravitz to, like, I mean, I can't even really sort of, and then he would play like classic house and some, Detroit techno and things like that. And just the mix of music was mind blowing. And talking to Andy Frost,
that was more the style back then too, right?
It was. Yeah. And that's because that's what I also
dance music nights. Yeah.
I did that when I was at Whiskey Saigon. I was a resident DJ at Whiskey Saigon for 6 years. I started DJing at Easter long weekend in 1998 was when I started at Whiskey. And
see, when I came in, I'd never DJ'd anything besides like house or jungle and drum and bass. Mm-hmm. Like, the first time that I ever DJ'd with CDs was at the Phoenix, and I rented CDJs from like a place by my house just for the afternoon. So I knew what I was doing and I was confident in it, right? Like,
yep.
But yeah, I kind of got that stuff from you,
Yeah, I remember you telling me too that you were the first night you were going to fill in for me. Yeah, you had rented CDJs and just pulled out all your CDs and were practicing. I mean, that's exactly what I did too. I mean, we had a pair of decks. We had a pair of Technics 1200s, in my parents' basement. And my brother and I would practice. He would play a song, I would play a song. He would play a song, I would play a song. Then we would change BPMs, right? So we would go from 130 BPMs or 125 BPMs, which is, I mean, you can beat match in that tempo for days, right?
Yeah.
Then we would drop it down to 100
Which is
BPMs.
basically house music.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So then we would drop it down to 100 BPMs. Now we're getting into R&B and hip-hop territory and stuff. But then we would say, well, you know, maybe let's try and not play anything before 1985. You know, because we had a decent sized music collection as well. So now all of a sudden it's like we're reaching back and beat matching, you know, Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys into, you know, Soul to Soul Back to Life, and you know, like just things like that, because it was one of those things that we never, for me as a disc jockey, because I grew up as a musician, you know, as a drummer, I never wanted to get find myself, you know, pigeonholed in as a disc jockey. I wanted to be able to play everything. And that was the great thing about Whiskey Saigon back in those days. And a lot of those clubs in the club district back in those days, you could play anything, you know, if it made people dance, they didn't give a shit. They were there to have a good time. So
yeah, see, I was so different. I was so like, this is my lane. This is the genre. I'm a jungle DJ. I'm a drum, you know, that's what I do. That's what led me into radio, which is the weird kind of thing. But, yeah.
Well, it worked well for guys like Goldie and Andy C. So there you go.
Yeah, Goldie, right? Part of the a member of the British Order now, which is it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Who is
Goldie? He's like,
you're kidding me. He's got an OBE.
Yeah. Okay. So there's different levels of it. I don't know exactly what they are, but anyhow, he's got something. Did you see when he was like conducting, like doing the whole symphony thing and everything?
No, I never saw that. No,
you got to watch this. You got to go down this rabbit hole. Okay, Goldie.
Okay,
it was a whole TV show, like I think that was done, and I saw clips of it from a couple of years ago, maybe. And yeah, he's a maestro conducting a symphony. Wow, it's crazy.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out for sure.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Like I did a podcast with Marcus, who's a Toronto
great podcast. Yep,
Toronto jungle legend. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like started thinking, I'm like, I kind of like doing some stuff like this. Maybe, I mean, Goldie would be the dream, you know, like to get to that, like stuff, man, the stories that guy would have and the things that he's seen and done over the years would be.
I just love listening to him tell stories about, you know, releasing Terminator, one of his first tracks, and then talking about, was the club Rage? Is that where they played? I think.
Yeah.
In Britain, that was the sort of the place that was one of the kickstarters for the whole SL2 sound and jungle, and then
the Roughage Crew is his early days. Yeah. He came up as like a graffiti artist too, and like all through music, and then you know, in movies, you know, he's in Snatch, and he's just one of the most kind of like fascinating people in like musicians.
I think he's brilliant. I still to this day, I think Inner City Life is still to this day is one of the greatest pieces of music ever written. I really do.
The album is called Timeless, and if you listen to it truly is, man. It like definitely holds up. And you know what? Since I'm gonna kind of start the extra music here, it's funny because I picked this because you're a drummer. Do you know what this is? Do you recognize this? I'd be surprised if you did, so don't.
It's not. It wouldn't be the Amen break.
No. It's from the first Kool and the Gang record, which is.
Oh, okay.
Again, this has been sampled. Like this is a classic.
Yeah.
Like,
I've heard it
break,
definitely
for sure. But yeah, I picked out the beats. I'm like, I got Craig on. I'll throw in.
Yeah.
The one in the. I shouldn't say what it is because I don't pay to use any of this music. They're just loops though. I mean, I'm just sampling.
Yeah, as far as, you know, I mean, it's been done for forever, right? And the one that you played at the beginning, I won't mention it.
Do you know what it is? Did you know what it is?
Yeah, TOP, yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
Smart man, there's a drummer.
I can play that, actually.
Oh, really? Because that's an interesting, it's a weird kind of syncopated, odd.
My post-secondary education, I actually went to Humber College in the jazz program. That's what I did. So I went, and my teacher was Kim Mitchell's drummer, Paul DeLong.
Oh,
and one of the best players in North America, as far as I'm concerned. Not Canada, North America. And
that's the thing That's
he
the
was
thing
my
with
teacher for the first year.
with drummers is that can you play jazz or are you just a rock drummer, rock and roll drummer?
Yeah, you know what? No, I don't even. That's a rabbit hole I'll go down. You know what? I love jazz.
I know it's another podcast altogether.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Literally, I love jazz, love rock, love fun. My whole thing is like Darren Pfeiffer's talked about it before in the past. Is you got to play everything. That's all there is to it. So
Yeah, there's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, you need to. It's about Ginger Baker, and it might be called like The Fabulous or The Wonderful Mr. like Ginger Baker or something like that. It's from like the last 7-8 years, and
Cool.
He's legitimately like crazy, eh? Like he's nuts. But he starts talking about some other drummers, which is like a big kind of like faux pas thing too. And and he's knocking their skills, and none of those guys they're rock. They couldn't play, and like he's not wrong in what he's saying, but he's just such an old crotchety bastard. It's like, but it's so entertaining to watch, because he is
be straight up honest with you. Ginger Baker isn't even in my top 30.
Really.
You know,
You
another
gotta
one
watch
that's not
it.
even
I-
another
'cause-
one that's not in my top 10.
Who?
Keith Moon.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
He's maybe 21, 22.
But it
somewhere
depends.
around there.
Okay, this is where you're talking about rock drummers, or are you talking about like buddy guys? Like
Yeah,
because
everybody, right? So I mean,
yeah,
so you're talking like Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, all the way down. Papa
Buddy
Joe
Rich, that's it,
Jones,
Buddy Rich. I think he's a buddy guy.
And I mean, straight through some of the greatest players of all time. One of my favorite players is a guy by the name of Vinny Colaiuta, and he played on Joe's Garage, the Frank Zappa record. He was on that album. He played on Sting's 10 Summoner's Tales. He's done 1,000,001 things, and he's just an unbelievable technician. But if you just sit down and say, just play 4/4, his groove, is massive. The pocket is this big, bigger than the screen. So,
I went to high school with a guy with a great drummer, and he's been in New York as a like session musician and everything.
What's his name?
Phil Stewart. Phil's got a record called Melodious Drum that is just fantastic. I mean,
Cool.
he was the reason anybody went to a school assembly, was because the stage band would play and Phil would get a solo, and people just went to watch, basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much for doing this, man. This is a great podcast. And at
Dude,
some point,
so
you'll
happy.
release
Thank
the
you
one
so
that
much for having me.
There's another episode of us talking together that at some point you will release.
Yes, there is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the podcast, I've got a couple of interviews booked for next week, and once I've got 5 or 6, then I'm going to be launching, and also going to be doing a couple of other things in the near future. So something actually I'm going to talk to you about that I want to do on Sunday nights. I just have to figure out how to do it. We're going to be doing a Tuesday night roundtable. You're going to be a guest on that soon as well. Hopefully, I was going to talk to you about that also.
All right, I'm in.
We do music, new music Mondays every Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. I try my best to get people on to talk about the record that they've just currently released and what have you. It's tough, but I do play a lot of new music. Like this week, this coming Monday, I'm super stoked to be playing new Death from Above 1979. I'm so excited. So
Their
I can't wait
last
for that
record
next
was
episode.
awesome too. Outrageous Now. The side B of that record is just friggin' smoker from start to end.
Like Jesse and Sebastian, they're just so fucking good. Like again, another whole podcast. You and I can just talk about music, nothing else. So,
yeah. Could do one on Death from Above. Anyhow,
yeah, definitely.
Thanks, dude. It was a pleasure talking to you again.
Thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.